This episode is brought to you by discount code HOHSALE, which you can use at either of our fabulous sponsors' websites, shockwheels.com for £25 off your order, or ilovefancydress.com for 10% off your order. At checkout, enter discount code HOHSALE, that's HOHSALE, for the exclusive discounts we can bring to you. You are now listening to Home of Halloween's Horror Movie Review Podcast, the movie review show run and controlled by you, our listeners. My name's Scott, and I'm the host of the show, and I'd like to take this opportunity to give you the chance to take control of what we do. Head over to our Instagram account at Home of Halloween and get involved in our weekly polls where you get to select the movie featured on the next episode. Also, if you want to get heard on the next episode, head over to anchor.fm/Home of Halloween. Click on the message button, record us a voice message, and I will play it on the air next week. Now, before we get underway, I want to say a special thanks to our friend Madman Audio for the intro music you are now listening to. I would encourage you to head over to his YouTube, have a listen to the other things he does, and subscribe to his channel. Finally, welcome to the show, and let's get underway with the next review you chose.
You want to die tonight?
Hello, my name's Scott, and welcome to the show. You're listening to Home of Halloween's Horror Movie Review Podcast, where I review the movies selected by you. I would like to say another thank you to Madman Audio. Seriously, go and check him out on his YouTube channel, or give him a follow over on Instagram at madman_audio. He's a really good supporter of the show, and I would love for you to support him back and thank him for everything he's done for us, because we couldn't have progressed as quickly as we did without his involvement. We've had a fairly big week this week. We've had 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, which, thank you. Whoever has reviewed us, thank you so much. The reviews do a huge amount for the podcast and help it get seen more and push us to more people. So if you are listening and you do enjoy the show, please, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, definitely leave us a review. And anywhere else you can. I don't know what other ones you can leave a review on, but reviews really help us push the show further. And the further we push the show, the better we can make it, and the bigger we're going to get. So thank you very much. I want to address something that happened on the last episode, which we had quite a few listeners who DM'd us on our socials and pointed out that I made a mistake. So last week I reviewed Paranormal Activity. I introduced a new feature on the show, which we're going to do on this show as well. It's the 3-word review, where we have someone who gives, it's exactly what it sounds like, a 3-word review of the movie. What happened was, it was recorded, it was done, it was edited. I checked it, it was fine. I asked for the 3-word review. I got the 3-word review. We moved on. Somehow when I published the episode, I managed to move the 3-word review and drag that audio clip about 20 minutes earlier than it was meant to be. So there's a piece of random audio in the middle, which is a 3-word review that makes no sense to anything. And then the point when I asked for the 3-word review, there's just an awkward silence. I know a lot about horror and horror movies, and I love reviewing them. I don't know a lot about editing audio and moving audio around, so I'm still learning. So apologies, but thank you very much for pointing it out, because this is what this show is. It's your interaction with me helps me improve the show. So by pointing that out, I can make sure this week I don't fuck up again. I want to have a quick talk about this week's poll on Instagram. So this week's movies, we had some really strong contenders in there. We had The Silencing, that was selected to go into the poll by one of our listeners, Tom, last week. We had Hellraiser. We had Season of the Witch. So we had some really strong contenders. The final boiled down to Hellraiser and another movie. And I was convinced Hellraiser, from when I put the poll up, I have a little bet with myself as to who's going to win and what movie I'm going to be reviewing. And based on that, I'm normally fairly accurate, and I will do a little bit of background work and I'll do a bit of research into the movie, get some of your facts and another bit. So I started doing all of that for Hellraiser because I was convinced it was going to win by a landslide. Hellraiser reached the final, and it was against a movie which I'm sure you'll all know, called Seed of Chucky, the fifth instalment of the Child's Play series. And when I saw it was against Seed of Chucky, I then continued to do my research into Hellraiser, thinking it was a sure thing. And I even sat and watched Hellraiser, which I haven't done for quite a number of years. Then when I checked the poll the following morning, Seed of Chucky had won. And not by a little bit. Seed of Chucky absolutely spanked Hellraiser. So that's taught me a lesson not to be so presumptuous, and not to assume that I know what you want as the listeners. So today I'm going to be reviewing Seed of Chucky. A bit later on in the show, after I've done the review, I have a guest who's also watched the movie, and we're going to have a chat about the movie, and I'm going to ask her some questions. The guest today is actually my mother-in-law, or my future mother-in-law, so I need to try and be on my best behaviour when she's here, because if not, I'm pretty sure she'll make the next 30 years of my life miserable. But I'm going to get on with the show now. And I think the best way to start is to give a play of the trailer for Seed of Chucky.
Told you not to leave your toys lying about. Good God, you are hideous.
The last time, he took a bride. But this time, in order to become the parents of a human baby, they'll need just the right woman. Jennifer Tilly.
Production is underway on the new horror flick, Chucky Goes Psycho.
You know, I should have played Aaron Brockovich. I could have done without the Wonder Bra. In Planned Parenthood, timing is everything, so you'll have to hurry. That shouldn't be a problem for you.
This fall, Chucky's back, and he's delivering us some evil. Come to Papa.
What the hell is going on in here?
She came on to me.
No wonder her career's in trouble.
Seed of Chucky.
That's my boy.
Oh, God bless the little people. This November, get a load of Chucky.
Okay, so there was the trailer. Right, before I dive in and really start giving this a bit of a pull apart, I want to wash my hands of all responsibility for this episode a little bit. Because I give you the control of the show, it gives me ways out of awkward conversations, which I'm sure I'm going to have an awkward conversation with Debs when she comes on as a guest. So you voted on the guest who had come on the show. You voted between my niece Moles or my future mother-in-law Debs. I gave you a bit of information about both of them. Moles loves horror movies. She's really enthusiastic about horror. Debs doesn't like horror movies. Doesn't like anything that's a bit seedy or a bit not quite right. And you selected Debs, which is fine, because I then give you a good selection of films, some of which are very detailed and actually good quality, well-made movies. And you selected Seed of Chucky. So you selected someone who doesn't like anything seedy and then got them to watch Seed of Chucky. And 100% that's all on you. I'm going to start with a score. So score for Seed of Chucky, a score between 1 and 10. 10 being the greatest of horror movies. That there is, I can't find a single fault with it. 1 being the biggest pile of shit ever made, that I've struggled to watch or that I've even abandoned midway through. And 5 is middle of the road, distinctly average, nothing more than I expected and nothing less. So it's just your average horror movie. Seed of Chucky was going to score a 1, but I increased the mark up to a 2. And I'll explain why it got a 2 and not a 1 a bit later on. So the movie really sets the tone from the opening credits. So if you've seen a film called Look Who's Talking, if you imagine the opening scene from Look Who's Talking with the CGI sperm making their way to the egg and then the forming of a baby within the womb. It's that, but if that was directed by Satan, so you've got dark, ominous music and these really bad quality CGI sperms that then go to form a really bad quality CGI baby. And that sets up everything that comes next. So the movie begins with... we start where we meet... we start in a dream sequence where we see something from the perspective of a doll. Instantly I assumed that doll was Chucky, but it turns out it's not. So you see this doll go up the stairs, and it goes and it kills a couple of people. The only good thing about this is there's a part in it where it is it's a nod to Psycho. So there's the lady in the shower, you see from the doll's perspective, and it's almost that opening shower scene from Psycho. And I won't lie, this opening scene I quite liked. I thought it was fairly well done, and it was a good scene. Then from here it goes downhill rapidly. So in the dream sequence, you then see that it is the doll called Glenn, who is Chucky and Tiffany's child. In the dream sequence, after he's killed the mum and the dad, he meets the little girl, and he's gonna kill her, or I assumed he was going to kill her, and instead he pisses his pants, and the girl starts taunting him, saying, "You're pissing your pants, you're pissing your pants," and then he wakes up, and he wakes up in a cage where he's pissing his pants, and he's being shouted at by a guy called Sykes. So Sykes is a ventriloquist, and Glenn is his puppet that's not a real puppet. So they're at the International Ventriloquist World Championships, which I don't know if that's real. I really hope that's a real event, but I don't know if it is. And Sykes is an arsehole. He's abusive of Glenn, and there's a bit where he throws a rat in the cage and goes, "You need to be meaner," and Glenn doesn't know what to do with the rat. The whole thing's a bit weird, and so he does his little stand-up bit with Glenn, and then after that, Glenn sat in his cage and he's watching TV through his cage, and he sees an advert for an upcoming movie called Chucky Goes Psycho. So within the Seed of Chucky, there is another movie. There's a movie being made within the movie, so there's multiple movies going on. So the Chucky Goes Psycho is a movie being made which is based on the murders that happened in the previous movies and the urban legend around the killer dolls Chucky and Tiffany. So Glenn is watching this and he sees on the Chucky doll's arm in the interview, he's got Made in Japan. And Glenn looks at his arm and he's also got Made in Japan on his arm. So this is enough for Glenn to go, that's my mum and dad, and he decides to escape, which he does, and then travel from the UK to LA. This is where the film starts getting really silly. So the explanation for Glenn travelling is picture an Indiana Jones or like a Muppets movie. Glenn travels in exactly the same way. It's an aeroplane with a dotted line behind it over a map. That's how he travels. When he arrives at the studio, it kind of explains that he's posted himself there, but it doesn't. At no point do we explain how he gets into the post or how he gets across or anything. It's kind of there's a lot of this movie that is the director going, this is what's happening, just accept it. That there's not a lot of explanation, and if you're going to watch this movie, you need to watch it with you're just going to ride through it. You can't try and make sense of this film because it doesn't make any sense at all. So when we get to the set, you see what I thought was originally part of the movie, but it's not. It's a scene from the movie within the movie. You've got a guy dressed as Santa. He's the guy from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, and I can't for the life of me remember his name. But he's dressed as Santa and he's carrying the sack over his shoulder, and he's talking to his girlfriend on the phone, and then she's breaking up with him, and it's the worst American accent ever, and it's not good. So Chucky then cuts himself free from the Santa sack, and the Santa then spots that his stuff's fallen out, turns around and sees Chucky sat by a tombstone. As he's getting close and looking at Chucky, Tiffany then wraps a metal slinky round his neck and starts to strangle him. Chucky then slits his throat and stabs him a couple of times. It then goes to him laying on the floor and Chucky's stabbing away and there's blood going everywhere. And I was watching it going, this is really bad. The effects are... He's stabbing him in the chest and there's like blood spurting out of his ear. It was really not well done. And then all of a sudden the actor sits up and goes, fuck's sake, Chucky's broken again. His arm's not working, and he storms off, and he's not happy, which is actually really funny because in real life, the actor said that if he could wipe anything from his movie history, it would be this film. Most of it was filmed in Romania, where it was freezing cold, and he said it was freezing cold, and he spent a lot of time there being stabbed and killed by an animatronic toy in a horror comedy, and he didn't like it. So that gives you an idea of what most people feel about this film. And then we do a little, which is an in gag. So the guy, the prop guy, the guy who's made the dolls comes over to have a look at Chucky and see what's wrong, and Chucky grabs his nuts. And this is an in joke from the movie because apparently when they were filming, the Chucky doll used to have quite a lot of malfunctions and was quite often grabbing Jennifer Tilly's tits. So that's kind of an in-joke that everyone on set found funny, but no one who's watching it gets the gag. So we go from here, and then the two dolls are put back in like the storage area where Glenn has cut himself from the box. There's a nice little nod in here to some old Universal movies. So when Glenn comes out of the box, he sees the Frankenstein's monster and the werewolf, and he gets really scared. So I think to make it clear, Glenn's nothing like Chucky or Tiffany. He's not a killer. He's a very scared, timid character. So Glenn then finds the Chucky and Tiffany doll, and he pulls out the amulet that he was given, the voodoo amulet that he can bring things back to life with. Now, if you remember the other movies, when Chucky tries to transfer his soul into anything, it's a massive effort. There's the hand on the head, there's the give me the power I beg of you, there's lightning strikes, and he tries this a lot in the first three films, and without success. He does this for long periods of time with no soul transference. So Glenn looks at the amulet, he doesn't know what he's doing. He kind of mumblefucks through the wording on the back, and there's a couple of little flashes of light, and then Chucky and Tiffany are awake. And I just thought that was so crap. It was so bad. And that they were alive, and there's a couple of good one-liners. So they sit up, and the first words out of Chucky's mouth is, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And then there's a realization where Chucky and Tiffany realise that he's their son. So Chucky's realization is he's taken the piss out of him for his appearance, and then it dawns on him that he's related, and Chucky faints. Tiffany's is very different. It's very supportive, sort of mother giving a hug, and they get on, and it's nice. From here they decide to, well, no, before they go from here, you get the prop guy. So the guy who's working on them brings Tiffany in, picks Tiffany up and puts her on the bench to do some work on her, because she's malfunctioning the same as Chucky. So he starts to undo her back, and Glenn and Chucky have hid. And then there's another nod to another horror movie where Tiffany's head spins all the way round like The Exorcist, and then Chucky wraps a wire around the guy's neck, and they pull it tight and his head pops off. Chucky and Tiffany have this kind of almost romantic kissing and cuddling scene, and Glenn is horrified. An interesting fact about this, the technical guy who they killed in the movie is actually the technical guy who worked on and made the Chucky and the Tiffany and the Glenn doll as well. And there's another problem I've got with this. So Chucky and Tiffany have a very distinct look, and the Glenn doll looks absolutely nothing like Chucky or Tiffany. If you were to put all three dolls next to each other, they don't look like they would be related. The Glenn doll almost looks like something from like Team America. He's kind of got that kind of gaunt. The Glenn doll I really don't like. It's really badly done, and I don't think it fits with the Chucky series. But we go from there, and they leave. They sneak away in Jennifer Tilly's limousine. This is after Jennifer Tilly has discovered the body. One of the saving graces, in fact the only saving grace of this movie, is Jennifer Tilly, in my opinion. So she plays herself, and she obviously voices Tiffany as well. The good thing about her voicing the good thing about her playing herself is she's not playing herself. She's playing herself, but a made up version of herself. So she's incredibly slutty. She's not the brightest. She's a bit thick, and she has a lot of self-deprecating jokes and digs. So she has digs at her own weight. She has digs at her acting ability. She has digs that she's had to sleep her way to the top, and I thought it was for Jennifer Tilly to actually do some of the lines in this. I thought was fantastic, because she must have a brilliant sense of humour, and be able to do that, because not everyone can make gags about themselves and feel okay about it, but she did. So Jennifer Tilly is trying to get into a movie directed by Redman. Redman is directing a version of the Bible, and Jennifer Tilly wants to play the Virgin Mary. So her goal to play the Virgin Mary is to get Redman to come to her house, to seduce him and to sleep with him, to get the part of the Virgin Mary. And there's lots of ridiculous scenarios like this throughout, and yeah, it doesn't really work. This film tried to sit somewhere weird. The original, the 1, 2, and 3 were definitely horrors. Bride of Chucky kind of slipped over into a horror / a bit of a horror comedy, and it had just the right amount of comedy that it was still liked by the fans. This one, Don Mancini took over completely, and he wanted to take this in a completely different direction and make it more comedy, less horror. It's almost like a comedy gore. And I think he probably achieved what he set out to do. I just didn't like what he wanted to do. And I don't think the gags worked in this. There was too many. They weren't well executed. It just generally wasn't well done. So the three dolls smuggle away in Jennifer Tilly's limousine back to her house, where Tiffany and Chucky come up with the plan that they're going to put their soul into. Chucky's going into Redman, Tiffany's going into Jennifer Tilly, but first they're going to impregnate Jennifer Tilly so there is a body for Glenn's soul to go into. And I think now's a good place to have a little break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into where it starts getting really, really strange and really, really, really fucking out there. Head over to shockwheels.com. Enter discount code HOHSALE at checkout and receive £25 off your order. Now, I'm not going to give you a big sales pitch on Shock Wheels. What I'm going to tell you to do is go and find them on Instagram or YouTube and just have a look at the electric scooters, or go to their website, shockwheels.com. I've done a couple of adverts for these guys before, and all I'm going to ask you to do now is go and have a look. If you want an electric scooter to get around on, or you've already got one that maybe is on its way out, go and have a look. Their stuff is priced really well. It's really good quality, and it's got some features that are really handy. So things like you can take the batteries out. So if you've got a garage or whatever, you can, or you want to leave your scooter by the front door, you don't need to bring it into your front room. You can take the battery out and charge it separately. It folds down really small, so it's really easy to transport around. They do good speeds. They're like 18, 19 miles an hour. And they've got a good range on them. So if you're in the market for an electric scooter, or you know anyone who is, get them to have a look at Shock Wheels. So shockwheels.com. And then we can give you £25 off your order with code HOHSALE. Seriously, go and check them out, because the stuff they do is fantastic, and I want you to support them because they support us and help us make this podcast better. So thank you, and that's shockwheels.com. Okay, so now we delve into the weird parts of this film. So when when Chucky and Tiffany first meet Glenn, there's some debate over whether Glenn is a boy or a girl. So Chucky's like, my boy, and Tiffany's going, my beautiful baby girl, my sweetheart. So there's this really awkward scene where they pull down Glenn's pants, and there's nothing there. So it's the same as if you'd pull down the pants of an action man. There's no genitalia whatsoever. So they both make the decision that, well, Chucky makes the decision that Glenn is a boy, and Tiffany makes the decision that Glenn is a girl. And they call her Glenn and Glenda, respectively. Up until this point, there'd been no hint that Glenn might have any idea that he might be a girl. That this hadn't been hinted to before. And I don't know if... at the time this was made, the gender identification wasn't what it is now, and we don't have the understanding of it that we do now. And I think this film made a really bad attempt to try and bring the subject to sort of some sort of forefront of media. Because of the lack of understanding, it was just delivered badly, and it didn't, in my opinion, it didn't have what it intended to do. It's almost like when you've got someone of an older generation who doesn't understand something, and they make comments on a subject that they don't fully understand. They mean well in what they're saying, but they don't. What they say is actually really offensive. They don't mean to be offensive, that they just are. So it kind of sits in that. But we go from here, and we get the... so Chucky and Tiffany put Glenn to bed, and Tiffany puts a bow on her hair. And then Chucky and Tiffany start to act out their plan. And what they do is they also agree that they're not going to kill anymore. Well, Tiffany agrees that she's not going to kill anymore. Chucky does a kind of fingers behind his back thing, where he's like, yeah, okay, we won't kill anymore for the sake of the kid, and he's got his fingers crossed behind his back. So we go from here, and then you get Chucky. Let me start again. We go from here, and you've got Jennifer Tilly has now had Red Man round for dinner, and they try to knock them out. And Tiffany does knock them out, and they tie them to the bed, ready to transfer their souls over. And long and short of it, it doesn't go right, and they end up waking up in the morning not knowing what had happened. And they try again. And basically, Redman's a bit of an arsehole in this. Again, he's playing a version of himself, but a made-up version of himself, and he's horrible to Jennifer Tilly, and it's almost like the nasty casting couch thing. And this is long before the Me Too movement and the Weinstein and everything else. It was kind of almost insinuated, almost said flat out in this film that this shit is going on, and way before any of this really come into the forefront. There was always rumours, but this film pretty much flat out says this is happening. And I don't know if that's something that maybe in retrospect we should have taken more notice of at the time. But neither of them are going to kill. Chucky takes... in the scene where they're... I'm getting all tangled now because this film is such a mess. So we move forward a little bit, and there's a reporter who's come to Jennifer Tilly's house to get photos of her with Redman. And why he's getting these photos, he's photographing them in the dining table area or the front room area, and they're kissing. And then he zooms up to upstairs, where you see a silhouette of Chucky masturbating. And this is where Tiffany has given Chucky a cup and told him to basically bash one out so they can artificially inseminate Jennifer Tilly. Before Chucky starts, he goes, "Are you going to help me with this?" And we get the weirdest scene ever, where the Tiffany doll pulls down her top and shows doll boobs. I'm a fan of tits in movies, but the doll boobs just didn't do anything for me. It was just another one of those moments where I watched the film, what the fuck is going on? And then Chucky and Jennifer Tilly actually has lots of dirty magazines in a bathroom, which I thought was itself very strange. And Chucky's flicking through and he's going, no. And then there's a copy of Fangoria, and that's what Chucky settles on. So you've got Chucky masturbating in the bedroom, and then the artificial insemination plan to go ahead. But when Chucky spots the reporter, he goes and wakes up Glenn and takes the bow off and goes, "Come on, we're having a boys' night." And they follow the guy to his studio where he's going to print the photographs. And there was a really good scene. If they'd stuck with this kind of scene all the way through the film, it would have been so much better. So the guy's in there and he's developed the photo of Chucky, the silhouette of Chucky, and then you hear Chucky laugh, and he turns around and the Chucky doll is sat on the side in the thing, and the guy jumps and then looks back and Chucky's gone. He then looks at the photograph that he's now bringing up to high res so he can see who it is, and he sees that it's the same doll. And with that, Chucky jumps out and he's going to kill him. Glenn tries to save the guy and inadvertently pushes him against a rack where some acid falls on his face and melts his face to death. Chucky then goes, "This is amazing, you're a fucking natural kid," and he stands and they take a Polaroid photo together. Back at the house, Redman has been so they artificially inseminate Jennifer Tilly after this, and then the following night Redman comes round and Jennifer Tilly tells him that she's pregnant because she knew instantly, and he basically goes, "Well, it's not mine. I had a vasectomy when I arrived in Hollywood. I ain't stupid, so this shit ain't happening. Nothing to do with me not getting involved." Tiffany's in the cavity of the wall listening. She's like, "You arsehole," and she actually rings like an addiction hotline, where she's like, "I'm having real problems, and I really don't want to have a slip." And the guy on the other end of the phone is like, "Slips are natural. Sometimes it just happens. It's just a little trip. It's a blip. Rome wasn't built in a day." And with that, Tiffany then disembowels Redman while he sat at the table. Again, if it was used in the right context, in a horror context, not in a comedy context, that disemboweling, that kill would have been really good. But because of the context it's used in, all of these kills just fall flat, really, really flat. So then Chucky comes back, and then they have the moment where Tiffany realises that Chucky's killed someone, and he's like, no, it was Glenn. He's a fucking natural. He's great. And then he realises that Tiffany has killed Redman. And she's like, I'm sorry, I tried to stop. And there's this weird scene where Chuck goes, don't worry, we all have slips. We've all got skeletons in our closet. And he opens the closet door, and out falls 3 bodies that we never saw him kill. We have no idea who they are. And then there's that they replace the Redman with Jennifer Tilly's chauffeur. Tiffany calls him, goes, can you come round? I really need your body. Which, again, that was a good gag. I liked that. We really need your body, not for anything sexual. We just want to put our soul into it. So they're both tied to the bed. By this time now, Jennifer Tilly has got massive pregnant, like ready to drop pregnant. And I wasn't sure how they were going to explain that away. And it was explained in like a one-liner where Tiffany goes, it's a voodoo pregnancy. And again, that just goes down to how piss poor the writing was for this. It was like, we need to get her pregnant. How do we explain that? We can't wait that long in the movie. It's voodoo pregnancy. It was either going to be voodoo pregnancy or doll pregnancy. It was going to be one or the other that made it go really fast. But it was voodoo pregnancy that they went on. So Tiffany then delivers a baby boy and then a baby girl. And then Tiffany goes, well, we don't need to decide now. We can have Glenn and Glenda. Because at this point, we've worked out that Glenn is actually 2 souls. So there's a male soul and a female soul that reside in Glenn. You've got Glenn and Glenda. So they're going to put 1 soul into each. So that they begin the ritual where Chucky's got his hand on the head. And this is where it goes back. So Glenn mumbled some shit on the tablet before, and Chucky and Tiffany come to life. Now Chucky's doing it. It's hand on the head. Give me the power, I beg of you. Lightning strikes and everything else. And it doesn't happen straight away. And why this is happening, you've got Jennifer Tilly screaming. You've got the Tiffany shouting, hurry up, because the police have just pulled up. You've got the chauffeur driver shouting and screaming. And this was the best bit in the whole film. Chucky just has a realisation, which I know if anyone's been in a situation where there's lots of people screaming and you've had it, this was the moment that Chucky had, and I really liked this. Chucky was like, hold on, what the fuck am I doing? He's like, I'm not doing this. Tiff's like, what do you mean? He's like, why the fuck do I want to be human? They get sick, they die, they get old. Why would I want that? I'm Chucky, the killer doll. I'm infamous. I'm as infamous as Freddy Krueger, as Jason Voorhees, as Michael Myers. I am Chucky the killer doll. And he has this realisation that actually, I don't want to be a human anymore. Which I really liked. And if this was a sequel to 3 and they'd done it as a dark horror, Chucky having that realisation could have made this franchise live so much longer. Because the first 3 movies is all about him trying to get his soul into a person. And now he's had the realisation he doesn't want to do that. What a great tangent they could have taken this off at, where Chucky is now a killer doll that can is really difficult to kill, and he just wants to kill. The opportunities they had were endless. But then Tiffany's like, but I want to be Jennifer Tilly. And Chucky's like, well, that's not happening. And Chucky goes to throw a knife at Jennifer Tilly. The chauffeur jumps in the way and he dies. And then basically the police turn up and they take Jennifer Tilly and the babies to the hospital. And the next scene, again, a lovely nod to a horror film. So you've got Tiffany, Glenn, or Glenda, and you've got Jennifer Tilly all in the hospital room. And then Chucky arrives because nobody leaves him. That was his line. Nobody leaves me. And he goes at the door with an axe. And there's a bit where he pushes his face up against the hole in the door. And I was waiting for it. I was waiting for him to say, here's Chucky. And he didn't do it. But the way he didn't do it was actually really good. He went, I can't think of a single fucking thing to say. And that was just fantastic. So Chucky gets in and he kills Tiffany with the axe. And this now leads to the most bizarre scene in any horror, probably any movie I've ever seen, where Glenn now attacks Chucky, but not in a sort of Chucky-esque way where he jumps and tries stabbing him. It's think The Matrix. Glenn puts his hand out. He does the sort of come at me gesture with his hand. And then he does a forward slow-mo somersault over Chucky, because he knows Kung Fu, because obviously he's made in Japan, it said so on his wrist. And then he gets the axe and he cuts off of Chucky's arms and then Chucky's legs and Chucky's head. And while this is going on, Chucky's going, "That's my boy, that's my boy." But I'm going to jump back because I missed a really important plot point. So there's a point where Glenn has his moment where he becomes Glenda, which is a really important point in the movie, and I don't know how I brushed over it. So the Jennifer Tilly's got an assistant who turns up when they're trying to do the ritual. And then she gets attacked by what we think is Tiffany with a hairspray and a lighter, which burns her face so badly. It's like there's petrol in this thing, and she falls over the balcony and breaks her neck. And then she turns around and she's Glenda. And this is another bit where they've done the gender thing really bad. It was bordering on sort of gender shaming, where she's Glenda and she's being really evil, and Tiffany slaps her to bring her around to make her Glenn again. And it was just done so badly. So badly. But we skip forward, so they've done this bit, and you now, Chucky's gone, and it jumps forward. It jumps forward 5 years from here, and you're at Jennifer Tilly's house where she's having a party with her for her two babies, and the nanny comes in and goes, I can't work here anymore. Glenda's so horrible to me, so horrible to me. Glenn's lovely, but Glenda's horrible. And then she goes, I understand. And then she kills the nanny. And then you see her eyes like glow green. And then you realise that when they were doing the ritual, Tiffany managed to get her soul into Jennifer Tilly. And then Jennifer Tilly has put Glenn and Glenda's souls into their children retrospectively. And at the party, there's a mystery present that arrives for Glenn. He opens it up and it's Chucky's arm, and Chucky's arm attacks him. And that's the end of the movie. This film is so many shades of shit. I can't fathom how much I could pull it apart. That this could be a 4-hour podcast. I could go through scene by scene and just pick out the mistakes. He's got no genitalia, yet he managed to be able to piss his pants. The way they deal with the gender issue is just diabolical. The acting is shocking. Apart from Jennifer Tilly, I thought Jennifer Tilly was really good. There's loads of plot holes. There's loads of things that don't make sense. There's loads of special effects that's bad. Like when Glenn's chopping up Chucky, he pretty much touches the axe on his arm and Chucky's arm kind of pings off across the room. It's just poor. I would say please do not watch this movie. If you watch it, go in with a bit of tongue in cheek. You know it's going to be shit, and accept that before you start watching it. I would recommend pretty much every other incarnation of Chucky apart from this. And Chucky as a character I think is fantastic. There's a new Chucky series coming very shortly, coming to Sci-Fi and USA. And I'm really excited about that. Because from what I've heard so far, they're taking it in a very dark direction. They're taking it back to what made Chucky great. So this movie for me is a 2-star. It achieved 1 star because they managed to make a movie. And the other star it achieved purely for Jennifer Tilly's acting and a couple of punchy one-liners from Chucky. Beyond that, this film is utter rubbish. It is just dumb. It's just so dumb in every possible way. So I'm going to give you a bit of financial facts about it, and then we're going to have a chat with my guest who I'm dreading. what she thought of this, but that's all on you. You made my future mother-in-law watch this. If Debs is going to kick off, she's kicking off at you, not at me. So financially, this had a $12 million budget, which is a big budget. I say big. Put it in perspective, it's the same budget that the 2018 version of Halloween had. So it had a good, healthy budget. And it achieved 24 million. So it doubled its money. Based on that, this was the last one that went for cinematic release, up until they remade it in 2019. So I think the studios felt the same way about this that I did, that it was just diabolical and it was time to bin the franchise. Even the sequel that went straight to DVD and video at the time, which was either, I think it was Cult of Chucky was the next one, or Curse of Chucky, whichever one of those it was. They didn't make that till 2013, so they left this after Seed of Chucky. They left the Chucky franchise alone for almost a decade because they knew how bad they'd fucked it up. But anyway, we're gonna meet my guest now. We're gonna play a game with my guest, where I give Deb some movie quotes, and she's gonna tell us whether they're from a horror movie or they're from my head. They're made up or movie quote. We're also going to ask Deb's her thoughts on the film, and have a bit of a chat. But before we do that, here's another message from one of our sponsors. Okay, we want you to use the HOH sale discount code again. Head over to ilovefancydress.com. Have a browse through what they've got. They've got licensed merchandise, they've got licensed costumes, they've got licensed masks, including the official Halloween Michael Myers licensed mask. They've also got Halloween props, animatronic figures, and then everything else you might need for parties or any sort of fancy dress event. Everything from style from the 1920s through to Hawaiian, through to, I think they've got Johnny Bravo, they've got Powerpuff Girls, they've got every incarnation of everything horror you could possibly imagine. And by using code HOHSALE, that's HOH sale, you get 10% off your order. If you're like me, when I buy Halloween stuff, I tend to bulk buy, or if I'm buying costume or cosplay stuff, I'll buy 3 or 4 items, so that 10% could make a big difference to your order. So that's ilovefancydress.com with code HOH sale to get 10% off. Okay, just quickly before I introduce you to Deb, I said we'd do 3-word review again, and we're going to. So I put a picture on Instagram earlier of Glenn and Glenda and Chucky and Tiffany, and said review this movie in 3 words. These are going to be the 3-word reviews of our followers on Instagram. I'm going to give them all a little bit of a shout out because, as I've said many times, this show is about community and about you being part of the show and you controlling the show. So I'm going to do this with a little bit of background music. Here are the Instagram followers' 3-word reviews. M_horror_reviews. Total franchise disrespect. The Air Case 900. Soiled my underwear. Wicked_cat, that's with a K, double T, 617. So that's wicked_cat 617. Waste of film. Ghostface.2K21. Piece of dog shit. So far I agree with all of these, so let's carry on. Invisigoth didn't comment herself, but then tagged in Josh, this is like a flashback daily, who he done 4 words, but close enough, I'm going to let it go. Chucky cops a feel. Okay. Then finally, Ghost Notes 1986 managed to squeeze in a review of Bride of Chucky and a review of Seed of Chucky in one line. So it's 2 3-word reviews back to back. Chucky gets lucky and Chucky gets unlucky. And those are our 3-word reviews. So thank you very much. You've all had a little shout out on the air. I've tagged you all on Instagram to let you know that you're going to be on the show. Thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll make this a permanent feature 3-word review, because I think it's great. And now time to meet Debs. So I'd like to welcome to the show my guest and future mother-in-law, Debs.
Hello.
Hello, Debs. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Before I get into what you thought of the film, because I'm so sorry you had to watch it, it was voted for. I'm not taking the blame.
All right.
The listeners voted for that film, and they voted for you to review it, so it's their fault, not mine.
Yeah,
okay. That's my cop out. We've had a message while we've been recording. I've had a message through from Imitation Dave. So I'm going to play that quickly first, and then we'll get on with what you thought of Seed of Chucky.
Yeah, fine.
Hi, it's Dave, or as you've so aptly named me, Imitation Dave. So thanks for that. It's always good to have a nickname that's, not completely horrible or disgusting. And would love to, the game you mentioned, the imitation or real, whatever. Yeah, I love to hear that game. Whether it includes me or not, that'd be very enjoyable. So anything I could do, you let me know, and I'll be here. Listening to the podcast. So thanks again. Take care of yourself. All the best.
Hi, Dave. Thank you very much for the message again. Imitation Dave, if you're happy with it, it's definitely going to stick. 100%, I would like that game to happen. I think that'd be a great way to round off this first season. Or if we can even get it done sooner, that'd be fantastic. I'm going to send you a DM, and we'll have a chat about how we can come up with something and get something working. Thank you again for your support and your messages you send in and listening to the show. And yeah, I'm pleased you're happy with the nickname. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode, and I'll be in touch soon. And now let's have a chat with Deb. So Deb, your summary of the film.
Very short. It wasn't a horror. It was a bit funny in parts, but definitely not a horror. Bloodthirsty a little bit, but not my cup of tea.
Not your cup of tea. Favourite character?
I liked the little boy that didn't know who his mum and dad was until he found Chucky.
Oh, okay. Glenn or Glenda?
Glenn or Glenda, yeah.
Depending on what.
Yeah, depending. Mum wanted Glenda.
I was
Chucky
going to
wanted
ask
Glenn.
you, just before that, Glenn, when he was Glenn, or when he was Shitface, when he was the puppet of Sykes, he didn't seem to have any gender questions at that point. He was a boy. He identified as a boy. Do you think it was Chucky and Tiffany that caused him to question?
Yeah, that's the point. It could have been because he saw his mum and then he saw his dad. He didn't want to be a murderer, so perhaps he wanted to go more to be a girl, so it's more on the gentler side. But and then he saw a boy and he just didn't know what he wanted to be.
Because I thought it was caused by them, that scene where they pull his pants down and try and work out if he's a boy or a girl.
Yeah, he did. And well, made him sort of like think about it himself, didn't he, really?
Yeah.
What he wanted to be.
Least favourite character?
Least favourite character? I haven't got one. They're all roughly the same. Really, they're
all pretty dismal.
Yeah.
If you got the chance to see this film again, would you sit down and spend an hour and 40 minutes of your life to watch it again?
If you paid me to, then I'd go through it again. But I missed all my soaps watching that, and nah.
No, well, I'm not paying you to watch it again. So overall, would you recommend? Who would you say this film is for?
I wouldn't say it was for anyone in particular. Definitely, if you were a horror fan, then no, definitely not. If you wanted just a bit of blood and gore, then you can watch that, but with a bit of tongue in cheek. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
nobody really.
No.
You wouldn't recommend.
I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. No.
No, and so let's get on to the most important bit, the scores for this film. So we score out of 1 to 10, 10 being the best film you've ever seen. So what's your favourite film?
What, horror-wise?
Or any film.
Any-wise.
What's your favourite film? If you could watch a film on a loop, what would it be?
To be honest, I haven't got one. I vary right across all different genres. I like everything.
Okay, so
you're... from silly, not silly, but from rom-coms to horror to
anything.
Okay. Documentary.
Well, a 10 is, let's say use a documentary, so a 10 is a David Attenborough. A 1 would be me doing a documentary.
1. 1 for the Seed of Chucky.
You're giving it a 1?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was going to say 5's middle of the road. It doesn't even get middle of the road.
No, it don't get middle of the road.
No, so it scores a 1 from you.
Yeah.
So it scored a 1 from Deb, a 2 from me, which if we combined its score is still a 3. So even with a combined score, it's not even average. The other score we do is we give it a fear rating. So how scared you were of the film. Between 1 and 5, 5 being you're terrified and you're hiding and you lock all your doors at night, a 1 being you not bothered by it in any way. So what would you give it on a fear rating? 5?
No, I'd give it a 1. I was more scared of that baby doll falling out of my basket and on the floor than I did for the whole of the film of the Seed of Chucky.
Right, so me and Lisa received a phone call from Deb about 3 days ago. Deb was at home alone, and she's got what would you say it is?
It's like a newborn lookalike dolly
that sits in a basket in Deb's conservatory. The newborn baby doll fell out of the basket, and we received a phone call from you saying,
I'm sure its head's moving and it's going to crawl across to get me.
So then after that, when I said to Deb she was reviewing a movie about moving dolls, I think Deb was a little bit anxious. And thankfully it wasn't that scary.
No.
I think next time, if you come on again, which I'd like you to at some point, I think now our listeners know that you don't like moving dolls. Maybe Annabelle or one of the original Child's Plays when Chucky was still scary and not silly.
Yeah,
would be ideal. But we're going to play a game now. So the game is made up or movie quote. So I'm going to give you 10 quotes. Some of them are from horror movies. Some of them I made up in the car on the way over. And all you need to do is tell me whether they're real or whether I made them up. So let's get on with the game. Here we go. Okay, so we've got 10 questions and you're just going to say whether they're made up or whether they're from a movie.
Right.
So the first one is, by the way, I would have voted for Obama for a 3rd term if I could. Is that made up or from a horror movie?
Made up.
Oh, it's not. It's from it's from a horror movie. It's from Get Out in 2017. So that you one down.
Okay.
Second one is swallow this.
Yeah, it's from a movie.
Any idea which one? Or is that just a stab in the dark?
So no. Stab in the dark.
The stab in the dark. It's from the Evil Dead 1987. So it's one each. Third one is, my knees are on fire. I'm going to kill you.
Movie.
No, that's made up. So that's 2-1 to me.
Oh,
Here's Tommy.
made up.
It is made up. Do you know what the actual line is?
Here's Johnny.
You know the film?
Shining.
The Shining. Yay! Well done. That's 2 apiece. Next one is I See Dead People.
True. From a movie.
Yeah.
And it's Willis, Bruce Willis.
Close enough. It's The Sixth Sense.
Sixth
Well
Sense,
done. So
that's
it's
it.
3-2 to you. Do you like scary movies?
Movie.
Do you know which one?
That's from Scream, isn't it? One of the Screams.
It is from Scream, the first one. That's it's Ghostface when he rings through to Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, I remember that phone call. Yeah.
Okay, so that's 4-2 to you.
Woo.
Oh, I'm getting worked. Next one is Tasty, Tasty, Beautiful Fear.
Made up.
No, it's from a film that's from It, 2017, from the remake. Right, next one. So I'm pulling it back. It's 4-3.
Yeah.
I'm an English teacher, not fucking Tomb Raider.
From a movie.
It is from a movie. Any idea which one? You get a bonus point if you can tell me the movie.
I'm an English teacher. No.
No, it's from The Descent, 2006. So that's 5-3
Yeah.
to you. The next one is Alexa, is the killer in the house?
Made up.
It is made up. I made it up on the way here. So
Clever.
you've definitely won now.
Oh, yeah.
Last question. So this determines whether you really beat me or only just beat me. The only monster I fear is Monster Energy.
Made up.
It is made up. There's another one I made up.
I was thinking of the drink.
Yeah,
Energy drink.
No, I was drinking one on the way here.
Oh, right.
Other energy drinks are available. So that's the game, and that's pretty much us wrapped. So congratulations, you beat me hands down, convincing win. So we've decided no one.
No, not unless they've got a very, very long time to waste.
So no one should go and see this film. It scored a huge score of 1 from you.
Yep.
And I gave it a 2. So combined score is a 3. So even with a combined score, it's still god awful. I want to do a couple of thank yous before we go. So I want to thank both of our sponsors, ilovefancydress.com and shockwheels.com, for allowing us to sell their stuff and make a little bit of money that we can put back into the podcast to make it better for you. In fact, I think that, would you like to record an ad?
Yeah, okay then.
Yeah? Okay, so we're going to do Guest Does the Ad. So Deb's going to record an ad now for, which one do you want? Shockwheels or ilovefancydress.com?
I do shock wheels.
Shockwheels? Okay, so here's Deb's ad.
Hi, I'd like to introduce shockwheels.com, shockwheelz.com. Order any electric scooter and get £25 off with this special code. H for Harry, O for Oscar, H for Harry, S for Sierra, A for Alpha, L for Lima, E for Echo. HOHSALE. Order now.
So that was Deb's ad. Thank you very much. Do you enjoy that?
Different. Very different.
Thank you to Debs. Thank you to Imitation Dave. Thank you to everyone who's listening. As I've said before, reviews really help us. So go and review us. If you're listening to the podcast, share it with a friend. Follow us over on Instagram at Home of Halloween. Get involved in the polls and please vote for movies for us to review next week. Preferably one that's better than Seed of Chucky. Next week we don't have a guest, but the week after I'm hoping to have the game ready with Dave and a guest to play that game as well. Another thank you to Madman Audio for providing us our outro music. Go and check him out on YouTube. Thank you very much for listening. I've been Scott.
And I'm Debs.
And I'll speak to you soon.
You want to die tonight?